Hello and welcome here to glorious Northumberland. As you'll notice, today I'm not in the studio. Out on location, down a track, on a friend's farm, not far from my house. And it's about 30 degrees, so to that end, I need a hat. Cowboy. That's the view I'm going to do, with the track just snaking off round into the distance there. That's always a fabulous lead into your picture. That takes you into the picture. The path is wider here in the foreground and narrower as it disappears and snakes off into the distance. A very easy format to get some good distance in the picture. Plenty of trees behind it, big clump of trees here on the left, and a nice track. Got it all really. So the first thing to do is slap on the paint. For the sky wash, that is. As I always say, if you haven't got a stay wet palette, get yourself one, because you're wasting paint, especially on a day like this when it's going to dry so quickly. That one, I've just squeezed out some fresh ones where it's running out, but you can see I've got a little bit of water in the bottom there, a bit too much there. And all you do is you wet the parchment underneath it, put this piece on top, and then squeeze your paint out on top of there. Put the lid on when you're finished, and it just keeps it moist for weeks and weeks and weeks. What I'm going to do to start with is slap a sky wash on. Slap, that's your first technical term. And then let that dry and do the drawing on top of it. Very simple way of doing it. Then you don't have to go around bits. So I've got cobalt blue here, and there's not a lot going on in that sky, to be honest. So I shall probably put a few more clouds in than are there. I've got cobalt blue and titanium white. Nice and strong at the top. Then coming further down, as I'm coming further down, I'm going to add more white to the blue and white mix. Just progressively more white, look. Gosh, it really is hot. And me being a ginger, I've got to be careful. I've got loads of stuff slapped on. And I hate sun-cream lotion, suntan lotion. Ugh. But needs must. And you notice I'm coming all the way down, past half. Sorry, past half. Look at the glistening going on there, lovely. Smoothing it out now. And then I'll wash my brush out well. Squeeze it out. And then just titanium white. I'll have a few wispy bits, like so. A few wispy bits of cloud. A bit more white, make that stronger. And this brush I'm using is my 1.5 inch flat wash brush, and it's not even an acrylics brush. This is my Aquafine watercolour brush. I use the same brushes for both watercolours and acrylics. 1.5 inch flat. Now, just with my finger, smooth the lines in like so. And of course I haven't got a smock on today, so I can't wipe it on my smock. So I'll wipe it on my easel. Just smoothing it in. This is the track where I walk my dogs when I'm not on the beach with them. But of course the dogs have had to stay at home today, because they would be uncontrollable down here without me to watch them. And that will more or less do for the sky. A very, very simple sky. Now, this is not quite dry, still a little bit tacky. You can still see there's still a sheen on the canvas, but it's dry enough to do the drawing. So I'm going to start here, about there, with that big tree in the middle distance. So, got another one in front of that, which is slightly different colours, which is nice. And then trees going off into the distance. Just squiggly lines, these. And don't fiddle about too much with the drawing. Don't start drawing twigs and all that kind of stuff. Now I've got my hedge coming up here. Again, another squiggly line. And I've got a tree that's casting a lovely shadow there. It's quite a small tree, but because it's nearer into the foreground, it's quite a big tree. I mean, this one. That makes perfect sense to me. I'm going to do a few boughs on that one. The pencil I'm using, IKEA. And the paints I'm using, System 3 acrylics. These are not expensive acrylics, but as you can see, lovely covering quality. Good strong pigment, nice rich colours, and they go on so creamily. They're beautiful to paint with. And they're not expensive at all. I think these were about £2.50, £2.70 on my website. I can't remember, but they're not expensive. To about there, where the hedge disappears. Underneath here, I'm going to have lots of... I don't really need to draw these in, but I'm going to draw them so you can see what I'm doing. Grasses here. And here, the base of the grass is where the track starts. And here, a lot of taller grasses. And the other side of the track. And the track disappears just there, kind of like goes around the corner. Just there. I'm going to have grass down the middle of the track as well because it's there, but I don't need to draw that in. And here, got some trees coming out to the top, a bit taller. And I should just do a block line for those. And then I shall fill all the rest in with the paintbrush. But I've just basically marked where I want them. And that'll do, drawing done. When I did the sky, I used my big brush, my 1.5 inch flat brush, which is good for skies. Now I've changed to my number 8 round brush. Again, it's an aquafine brush, a watercolour brush, but it'll take the hammer that's needed to use acrylics. So I've got a little bit of water into this time. I'm going to use hooker's green, just a little bit of hooker's green there, and quite a lot of raw sienna, which is of course the colour that I use for the pre-stain on my canvas, raw sienna. I don't know if I mentioned the pre-stain, but it's just a quick wash of raw sienna, let that dry, or whatever light you want to get into your painting, let it dry after you fill the canvas in, and then paint on top of it and leave that showing through here and there. Now, hooker's green and raw sienna. All I'm doing, look, tapping on like so with my brush, tip of my number 8 round. And what you've got to think about in the distance like this, when you're going further away, whether it looks it or not, make it weaker further away, getting stronger as it's coming further forward. That way you get a little bit more recession into your painting. Go around that one, easy enough to miss. The beauty about acrylics, of course, is if you make a mistake or you paint through something that you didn't mean to, you can just paint on top of it afterwards again, cover up. Such a forgiving medium. That's why I love acrylics. You can make as many mistakes as you like, And you can put them right with acrylics by just painting over it. Because of course, unlike watercolours, you're able to put light on top of dark. Bit round here and come down there. And again, stipple. You notice I haven't dipped into the paint again. I'm letting that get weaker and a little bit scrubbier as it goes further away. These brushes will hold so much water and consequently hold so much paint. Now a little bit of blue, just cobalt blue again. There. Plenty of water into that as well. When I say plenty of water, it's not like watercolours. I'm not flooding it with water, but I mean a little bit more water into the brush. And that's going mainly to the bottom there, look. The light in this one is coming from the right, so I'm going to put a few bits down there. And again, just stipple. Now, with my finger, just dab on. Soften it a little bit here and there. Bit more blue there. You see, I took a bit of blue off with my finger rather than merging it in. So I'll just paint some more on top. Easy peasy. Now, a few little bits of, with my rigger brush, again, aquafine brush, number 4 rigger, a few little bits of raw umber and titanium white mixed. And with that, and some titanium white into it. And we'll have a few strokes in there, because if you look at those, in the distance there, the twigs are quite light. Get them a little bit thicker at the base. And I'm actually painting more twigs in than you can really see, but quite effective. Now with my fingernail, you see how quickly that's dried, look. Drying so quickly today. Now, a few little touches of Payne's grey. Again, enough water into it so that it spreads. And that down the left-hand side of some of those bits. That's quite effective there. He said in a very surprised manner. Oh, it's lovely to be able to go out on location and paint. It's got to be said today for me, a little bit too hot, but glorious. And finally, a little bit of Naples yellow into that lot. Back to my number 8 round brush. And a few touches of Naples yellow here and there. Don't want to go mad with the Naples yellow, it's just a few touches here and there. Back back in with my finger, just tap on. There. Now I'm moving closer, the bigger tree coming further forward. And so again, it's raw umber, but this time with a little bit of Payne's grey into it. And there's not many boughs you can see through that load of foliage. But I'm going to put a few in. There. And again with my rigger brush, number 4 rigger. And this is, as I say, raw umber and a touch of Payne's grey into it. And raw umber's the only brown I carry. I was just waiting for that train to go by. Raw umber's the only brown I carry. But I've got like 4 different browns from that. Raw umber has a nice standalone brown. Put a touch of blue into it, you've got sepia. Put a touch of Payne's grey into it, you've got an even darker sepia. Take your raw umber and burnt sienna together, you've got burnt umber. Take the raw umber, burnt sienna and the blue, and you've got Van Dyke brown. It's a lovely mixing brown. Now, hooker's green, again, and a little bit more raw sienna than green, and not as much water into it this time. You see, I've mixed more or less the same colour that I did on the distant trees. I'm just putting less water into it, so that it's a stronger mix, it's a stronger colour. Again with my number 8 round brush. You see, that's stronger than that. Tapping on, leaving little bits of the boughs that I painted showing through. But just dabbing. So that now you can see through the foliage a little bit with the sky colour behind it. That's why it's important not to paint around trees when you've done the drawing. Don't paint the sky around the trees. Paint the sky on first, and then you can see through the foliage when you leave gaps. See sky colour through the foliage. And a few bits down here. That needs to be darkened a little bit, but not just with the Payne's grey mix, this time with hooker's green and burnt sienna. So I've got 2 different shades of green going on. Hooker's green, quite a bit of burnt sienna in it this time. There. So it's a much darker green. Like so. See that? And a few bits of that up here as well. That tree is now coming further forward from that lot. And again, some Naples yellow. Wash my brush out well, good squeeze out. And just with Naples yellow, a few bits up there. I'm not really going to put any Naples yellow down this side. Back in with my finger, just tap, don't rub, down, squash some lumps. Squash some lumps. Hello? There, that's another tree done. Now, this tree in front of that one, and it's quite an odd tree. That there's lots of twigs and everything coming out above the foliage. I'm going to stick the foliage in first. Again, hooker's green and burnt sienna, like so. Bish bash bosh, again with my number 8 round brush as well. And this time, quite a bit of Naples yellow going on the outer edge. There, like so. And that stands that apart from that one. And now, really nice and dark, down the bottom edge of that, bottom left-hand edge of that. So Payne's grey and cobalt blue mixed. There's my Payne's grey, there's some cobalt blue. Pop that in there. Quite dark down there. And taking that up behind where these big trees will come out on the left. And again, merging it in slightly. Notice I haven't dipped in again. Now, with my fingernail, put a few bits in here. It's very effective, but don't do too many. Back to my rigger brush for a second. Just tap those on there. Back to my rigger brush for a second, and again the raw umber and titanium white. Raw umber, bit of titanium white into that. Let's have some twiggy bits coming from there. They don't really show that well at the minute, but they will. Trust me, I'm an artist. Now, a little bit of Payne's grey. To the left of those. Just drag that down. And there. It's a scratchy old tree. A scratchy old tree. A bit like me on a day like this. I feel like I'm wilting. There. Now, for once, I've changed to my 3/4 inch brush. That one. I'm starting off with, again, Hooker's Green and Raw Sienna. But there's quite a few colours going in the hedge. This is for the hedge. There's my Hooker's Green. There's quite a bit of Raw Sienna. And what I'm doing this time is splitting my 3/4 inch brush like that. Made a right mess of it, but it'll go back to shape when I want it to. I'm just stippling. And here's a prime time to leave some of your understain showing through. Just by stippling, you can either fill it in or make use of the understain with that little bit of light coming through. Raw sienna showing through there. Like I say, there's a few colours going on top of here. Wash my brush out well. And now I've got a few bits of just raw sienna. What I'm doing, getting that, splitting my brush again and going into the raw sienna. There's lots of colours in a hedge, it's not just green. Now, a little bit of burnt sienna. Here's my burnt sienna. Again, split my brush. And stipple. Now I've got just a clean damp brush, which again I'm splitting. And again, stipple. I'm going to my round brush now for a second. And with a bit of Payne's Grey and blue again. Payne's Grey. Bit of cobalt blue. Keep the blue the same as the sky. Get some of that in the base. Stippling on. And now that's going to help to, once I get the grasses in the foreground, underneath this, that's going to help to tie that hedge down to the ground, so to speak. Now, just with a clean damp brush, go into where I've put those colours on and just soften it up at the top. Look, there. Where it's darker at the base of the bush, hedge, whatever you want to call it. And so I've got my dark in there. Now, I finally, for the hedge, need to get some light on the top as well. A bit of Naples yellow, of course. Still with my round brush. And get some Naples yellow in there. And again with my finger, just tap it. dried almost instantly as I put it on. A bit more water. There, that's better. Yep. Gonna have a little bit more Naples yellow just there. Just going back in with a little bit more green here and there now. Of course that, as I said, dried instantly the second I put it on. So I couldn't kind of like ease the edge. But now I'm just putting more green back on. There. See what I said about you can always correct mistakes with acrylics? Well, I made that mistake deliberately so that you can see. There. And that'll do for the hedge. It's coming along all right, this now. It is so hot though. But now it's time for this little tree, which is a big tree. And you can see on the actual tree trunk, not that big, but on the actual tree trunk, it's quite dark, but they're just catching some light here and there on the middle of in the tree trunk. So I'm going to start off with raw umber and Payne's grey. Raw umber, Payne's grey. And I'm just going to do the bottom of it with my number 8 round brush. Right on fairly thickly there. There. And then with the point of the number 8 round brush, you see what a lovely point you can get with quite a big brush. A number 8 is a perfect size round brush. It's not too big so that you can't get thin points with it, and it's not too small that you can't get a good coverage with it. It's the best of both. And coming down here. I shall change to my rigger brush now, because I want some finer bits in the top. Still with the same colour mix, Payne's grey and raw umber. And just a few bits coming down here. As I always say, I only use 4 brushes anyway. And you've seen all of them so far. I shall tell you more about them at the end of the video, but 1.5 inch flat, 3/4 inch flat, number 8 round, and a number 4 rigger, and you've got everything you need there. Well, especially for painting landscapes anyway. And we'll have a few little bits coming down here. And you can see as I start to do this, how everything else that I've painted in the distance goes further back now. Now, into that same mix that I've just finished with, I'm going to put Naples yellow. There. A few bits there. A few lighter touches. And a few bits up there. Now, just Naples yellow. In that middle bit. And there. And now, just with my finger, just going to stroke through it to smooth the Naples yellow in. A gentle stroke. There. Be gentle. Now, hooker's green and burnt sienna. Just one green on this. And nice and dark as well. This foliage will now take over from the foliage that I've done so far. Hooker's green, quite a lot of burnt sienna there, look. And again, split the brush, like so, and stipple. That can be even darker actually, more burnt sienna into it. There, that's better. Yep, that's better. And even darker, more burnt sienna. And now finally, a touch of Naples yellow again. Actually no, I'm going to put Naples yellow into my green. There. And that will do for that tree. Now it's time for big chunky bits on the left hand side. This clump of trees here, which is just kind of like coming out from the left of the canvas. But first you can see, look, there's a few boughs there sticking out. I'm just going to have a few of those in there with my rigger brush. And I've got raw umber and titanium white. Raw umber and titanium white, there we go. Quite a bit of white in this. And they're going to come out from here. If you press the rigger brush on harder, then it spreads and gives you a broader stroke. Look, wide there, then lift off and get a thinner stroke. A rigger brush is a lovely brush, very underused and underrated brushes. I love them. A little bit more there. And again, a little bit of paint spray. Remember, anything you're doing in a big clump of trees like this, you're going to cover a load of it up when you put the foliage in, so don't fiddle about too much. A few bits coming down there like so. There. Now, in with my big brush, my 3/4 inch brush. And I'm starting off with hooker's green and raw sienna. A lot of raw sienna. Split the brush again and start and stipple. Now, actually a little bit more there. Now, Hooker's Green and burnt sienna. Good and strong. Hooker's Green, by itself, you should never use it by itself. It's totally unnatural. But as a mixer, it's fabulous. I can mix every colour I've got in my palette, one at a time, sometimes two at a time, with the Hooker's Green, and it gives me loads of different kinds of greens. It's a beautiful colour. But like I said, never by itself. So now I've got two shades of green in that. And now a little bit of Payne's Grey and Hooker's Green. Very dark. There's my Hooker's Green. Quite a bit of Payne's Grey in that. And again, split it. Poor Gail's filming here and she can hardly see anything through the viewfinder because the light is so bright. Now, Naples Yellow and Hooker's Green. See, I've done quite a few mixes with things into Hooker's Green. Finally, just Naples Yellow. But again, splitting the brush. Get the paint out, split the brush. Touch up there. And that's a very big clump of trees poking out of the corner without too much effort. I'm tapping that on, look, but already it's dried. There, that's okay anyway. Big clump of trees. Into the path with my 3/4 inch brush again, and I've got raw umber, quite a lot of white into it, like so. Big broad strokes. And disappears there. Now a little bit of raw sienna. Again, plenty of water into it. Big broad strokes. And just merging that in with the brown. I've got a big splodge of blue there from when I put the sky wash on. I caught my brush on the canvas. Guess where there's going to be a bit of foreground grass? Sorry, grass. Now, I'll leave that for a second. Into the grasses either side. Again, I'm starting off with raw sienna. Got a big clump of it there. Split the brush. And stippling. And raw sienna down here as well. You can tell it's a sunny day. There's lots of motorbikes out today. I can hear them on the road in the distance. Oh, to be on a bike now. I love motorbikes. Problem with being on a motorbike is when you're stationary in weather like this, because you've got all those leathers on and you sweat like mad. Now, hooker's green and raw sienna. A lot of raw sienna. Leaving bits of the just raw sienna showing through here and there with the stippling. Talk amongst yourselves. And more of that over here. And whilst I'm in with that colour mix as well, I'm going to put a little bit of this down the centre of the path. Sorry, the path. Look, you see, a bit of that splodge gone already. Just with the corner of my 3/4 inch brush, though. Just dab on, and then put more brush on as I come further forward. A little bit dark, I think, here and there. Put some burnt sienna into it. Got a hair there. Guess where there's going to be some shadow. Now, still with that dark mix, some bits on here, look. Flicking up now. Some bits down here. And a few flicky bits here, look, like so. Push the brush in, flick up, look, make that into grass. Sorry, grass. A few flicky bits of grass here as well. There's the splodge, disappeared. Now I want a few touches of light as well. So guess what? Naples yellow. And I'm going to touch it in as I go along so it doesn't get the chance to dry on me. And then over here as well. Just a few touches of light. Oh look, that hair's gone. A couple of touches of that here as well. Now there's a final thing to do on here, which is to put some shadow on. But this bit of yellow and everything that I've just done really does need to be dried before the final shadow. So now I'll just give that a few minutes to dry and then I'll put the final shadow on the whole thing. Now everything's good and dried, all this foreground stuff. So final shadows, and I've got some quite deep shadows here. Here's a little bit of violent violet. That's what I call it anyway. Its official name is deep violet. Again, it's a system 3 colour, beautiful, but very powerful. So that's violent violet and Payne's grey mixed. Let's check that first. Yep, that's okay. And with my round brush, look at the strong shadow underneath that tree there. And onto the hedge behind it, look. So I'm tapping on there. Onto the hedge and around here as well. Dabbing with my finger while I'm at it. Up to the tree with that. And bring that down. Stippling, not a solid line, stipple it. You see the violent violet, deep violet, sorry, we'll stop calling it that. Although it's a very dark mix, this, it's still quite warm because of the violet in it. Now bring that across and into the track. Like so. Just dabbling on and spreading that a little bit. Now a little bit more water into that. Bring that across here. And a bit of an edge to where the grass meets the track. So. Bringing that up into the grass a little bit. And just a few touches up here. Now I'll have a little bit of that down here as well. And just a few touches in the track itself. This is not shallow, these are just bumpy bits in the track. And there, that'll more or less do. And there we go. Quite a nice little outdoor painting, that one. As I said, 4 brushes, and these are Aquafine watercolour brushes, Dale Rowney Aquafine, 1.5 inch flat, 3/4 inch flat, number 8 round, and a number 4 rigger. That's all I use, ever. The paints that I'm using, System 3 paints. And here you go, here's a few. These are, like I say, I think they're £2.70 on my website for those big tubes. System 3, Dale Rowney. Lovely, yummy paints, very creamy, and they go on beautifully. And if you want to learn more about these techniques, most of them are in this book, and it's called Acrylics for the Absolute Beginner, because it takes you from just starting out with acrylics all the way through some fairly major projects. And the drawings are in there as well to use if you need to use them. They're all in there, just pull them out. And like I say, some fairly major projects going on in that one. Horses and all kinds of stuff. But starting off from the very beginning, basics. Watercolour acrylics for the absolute beginners. Hope you've enjoyed that. If you get the chance, get out on location and paint. Even if it's in your garden, you don't have to come down here and, you know, well, you're not going to come down here, obviously. But you don't need to go down some track or anything, even if it's your own garden. Just get out there and paint and enjoy it. See you soon. Bye.